All right, I'm going to start up on chapter 8. So I'm on page 197. This is a shorter chapter than the last chapter. It's a little over 25 pages. The last chapter was over 40 pages. This chapter has, like I said, probably 7 or 8 pages of unit tests. So again, I will just be skipping those. So as the author mentions here, previously we set up the core infrastructure. Now we'll use that infrastructure to add features. In particular, all right, we're going to add navigation features. So if you look here, under adding navigation controls, what do we want? It says we want to enhance the list action so that it's able to filter the product objects by category, which it currently is not doing. All right. Next, we will revisit and add the URL scheme and revise the routing strategy. This is going to get more complex. You don't have to look up here, but please, even if you're going ahead or whatever, please listen to this. This is going to become more complex now because previously all we had to worry about was either you didn't enter a page number, which meant go to page 1, or you entered a page number. All right? That wasn't that big a thing. Now, instead of there being 2 possibilities, there's more like 8. What do I mean? Well, you could be in the category for water sports and you do or do not enter a page number. You could be in the category for soccer, do or do not enter a page number. You could be in the category for chess, do or do not enter a page number. Finally, you could be in no category, do or do not enter a page number. What that will necessitate is us going through and making a lot of changes in that route config file. We'll do that later in the chapter. The reason I'm taking a second to tell you this is many books will say that what the author is doing in this chapter is terrible. All right? I'm going through an online class right now where the guy who teaches the class says, if you know what you're doing, you should never ever have to even touch the route.config file. That's his point of view, or route config file. All right? So, again, we will create that category list as a sidebar. Okay? So the author says we're going to start by enhancing the view model class, products list view model. Well, where is that? Well, it would sure seem to me like it's going to be under our domain for our models. All right? And maybe it is, maybe it's not. It also could be under our web UI. So what do we want? What's under models here? Product list view models. Well, that looks good. What's in there now? Not much. All right. So this is product list view.cs. We're only adding 1 line. It's going to tell us where we currently are. All right. Previously, even though when we put the stuff in, it was put in by category, that could have been luck, or maybe the author did that on purpose. I don't know. But the point is, now order will matter more than it did before. So that's the line that we just put in. Inside of our product list view model.cs, which is in our sportstore.webui package, under the models folder, we added the line public string current category with a get set. So we are adding a new property. All right. We've got products. We've got our page info. Now we're going to start worrying about categorization or putting in our category info. So it says the next step after doing that is to update the product controller so that the list action will filter by product. What does that mean? Look on the screen. This is important. Notice that in our list, we're now adding something. We're adding a string for category. Or not. We're not giving it a default, but we're adding a string. So this says where the category is null, meaning you didn't enter anything, or we've given it a category. So in either case, we want to go through and do this stuff. But the difference is now we want to allow the user, we're not by any means done yet, but we're going to want the user to be able to filter by category. All right. Once you see this, I'm going to show you something, because the way we'll do it next week, again, will differ from this. All right. So I'm going to just grab the entire list method, all right, that's inside of our product controller. All right. Get rid of that old one that was in there. And I'm going to replace it with this. So again, what has changed more than anything else in here, this is just me, I'm anal about this stuff, sorry. All right. So what has changed is we added a category, and we have to account for that category inside of our query. So the author says there's 3 changes. First 2 I already told you about. All right, first we added the parameter called category. All right, it says it's used with the second change as an enhancement to our where statement. Okay, the last change is to set the value of the current category. So we'll be able to use that further on in our program. Again, you'll notice that right away on page 198, all right, on page 198 is a unit test. It's 198 in almost all of 199. If you tell me, and I'll be able to tell because you're going to be putting your stuff out there on the system, but if you tell me I gave this a try, I got some unit tests to work, some I didn't, okay. At least you made the effort. But if I look in your unit test folder when you turn this in, there's nothing in there, you'll lose some points. All right? If I can find the time, let's put it that way, all right, then I'm going to try to go through them also. Okay? All right. So the author says the effect of category filtering is evident even with these small changes. It says start the application and select the category using the following query. So question mark category. Oops. We're going to try that in just a second. All right. It's by no means, sorry, I've been following it. It's by no means complete yet, but when I come in here, I'm going to do a file save all and then run the program. You all know, or should know at least, what this should look like when it runs. We'll have 3 pages. We'll have our links at the bottom, but the key thing is we'll have all 9 products. All right? All right, so now I'm going to add this to the end. / category equals soccer. Now, there's our stuff right now. I didn't hit enter yet. So there's our 9. All right, but after I put, well, I guess I removed it. But after I put this in, category equals soccer, notice what changed. There are only the soccer things there. See that? If I change it to water sports, and this is case independent, all right, Oh, I thought it was. Okay, I'm a liar. It's not in case independent. All right. So there's my two water sports, and then finally we have chess. It's interesting. I'm not sure why that is case dependent. And there's our four things for chess. All right. So we are starting on our way. Okay. Not there yet. All right. So you saw that here. Then the author says, obviously we don't want to navigate that way, but just by making that small change, we got a pretty big benefit. All right. So bottom of page 201, going on to the middle of page 202, there's another unit test. Now, I warned you this was coming. If you look up on the screen here, and you look on the bottom of page 202, which is right here, and the top of page 203, which is right here. All right. Since we have more permutations now, we have to refine the URL scheme. So as it says, no one wants to see or use ugly URLs like we've been using. To address this, we're going to revisit the routing scheme to create an approach to URLs that better suits. It says, I changed the route method as shown. All right. And you can see it's pretty big. All right, so I'm going to grab everything. And I'm going to keep the default. I don't remember if he says to keep that or not, but I am going to keep it. All right. And start hitting enter, and then add the other stuff that's in here as well. All right, and as I mentioned to you previously, when we start going through this, you start to see the different permutations and how the author is handling it. All right. Product list with nothing there, default to page 1. All right. As we go through, there's the list, and you can just see the different ones that are in there. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing it to hopefully make it a little easier for you to see what's going on. All right. But it is going through the different permutations, the different types of combinations that you have in there. Right? And it looks like he doesn't like this one anymore. He doesn't show it in there, so I will remove it. That was the default one. All right. Now it looks like I might have one too many curlies. Now it looks okay, as far as I can tell. All right, I can go pretty it up later if I want to, need to, whatever. Now, I have told you this kind of thing before, so I'm sorry if it's a broken record, but I think it's at least worth repeating. That, let's just say I had this really ugly, the stuff that's on the screen here. It wasn't formatted at all, and it just looked terrible. Well, there's a chance, if somebody wants to take a look at your code and you don't change it, they're going to look out there, and that is a reflection upon you, just so you know. All right? So again, the author says it's important to put those routes in, and when you put them in, to put them in the order that they are shown. And if you say, well, what happens if I don't? Try it. Change the order around, and then it probably won't run correctly. Please look at this on the page here, on the screen. This is, again, the author's explanation of what's going on. If you put in just a slash, it should list the first page of the products from all categories. Let's try these. All right. So I'm going to do a file, save all. And I'm going to run this. Having this show on the screen right here, this is the same thing as if I had a slash here. It won't matter. So it should show me all 9 products. Whoops. No, it didn't like something. Maybe it didn't like the slash. I don't know. But the point is, there are all 9 of my products. So that looks like a decent start. All right, next. If I put slash page 2, it lists the specified page showing the items from all categories. Why? Because there isn't a category provided. So by default, it should grab the current category. Now I got 2 slashes. So there's page 2. All right. Next, if we put in slash soccer, it should show us the first page of soccer. All right. That should make sense to everybody. And there it is. Now, they tell you next to put in soccer 2. There are not 2 pages of soccer. Everybody get that? There are not 2 pages. There are only 3 records. So we can do that, what the author says there. But it says it shows the specified page. Okay, it says, in this case, page 2. I don't think so. It's not erroring, but it's not showing us anything because there's nothing that meets the criteria we just put in. All right. Now, the author mentions here, this is the bottom of page 203. The ASP.NET routing system is used by MVC to handle incoming requests from clients, but it also generates outgoing URLs. Why did I read that to you? Not to waste 5 minutes of your time, but to tell you that's what ASP.NET MVC is it's a big routing mechanism. All right? And you have to take control so that when your controller calls a view, that it goes and does the thing you want it to do. And that's kind of what the author is saying here. All right? It says, I will show you how to unit test routing configurations again up in chapter 15. All right? All right, let's finish this section. We'll take another break. It says the URL action method is the most convenient way of generating outgoing links. In previous chapters, we used this helper. All right? So we want to go into our list.cs HTML file, and we want to make changes to that div that's at the bottom. Now notice what it says here. It says previously we did stuff that looked like this. And it says if you click the page, the filter you applied would be lost. But after doing this, it should keep it. What does that mean? It's, again, as always, it's easiest to show you. So let's go to our list.cs HTML file. Go down into the div at the bottom, replace what is there with this, save it, run the program. And again, we'll just go to slash soccer. All right. It keeps that. Right now, we don't have anything that's got more than 4 records in it. So we're not really able to look at it right now. All right. But you'll notice if I go to 2, see that? Page 2, there's nothing there. Page 3, but it keeps the soccer part. That's what the author's trying to show you. That's what we just did. All right. Okay. File, save all, because I haven't saved in a while. It is 2:27. Let's come back, please, at 2:40. We'll pick it up. starting on the bottom of page 204, where we're going to build our category navigation menu. All right. And my hope is we can get done with that by like around 3:30 or so. We'll see how it goes. So we left off on the bottom then of page 204. Now we want to build our category navigation menu. I don't want to read to you, but I want you to see this. They talk about child actions right there in the blue. It says MVC framework has child actions. All right? A child action relies on a helper method. These helper methods, just so you know, any method that's built in that starts with HTML and you hit dot, those are methods that have been written into the language for people, basically as HTML shortcuts. So if you don't know much HTML or don't want to know or want to be able to write stuff without writing a lot of HTML, you can. You probably have noticed this before, but again, if you look on the screen here, I'm just going to put in this, okay? It's going to look stupid, but it's fine. So I'm going to put in here HTML dot. And when you do, it's not picking it up now because of where I am in here. You're going to find a lot of IntelliSense and a lot of stuff that's built in for you. All right. So first thing we want to do, since we're again doing something new, the author has us create a navigation controller. All right. So right-click on the controllers folder in the Sports Store Web UI, select Add Controller. It'll be empty, and we will call it, all right, Nav Controller. Okay? So again, long story short, right mouse click, not in our domain now, but we're back in the Web UI. In our controllers folder, right mouse click on the folder, Add Controller, empty, and it's going to be called Nav Controller, not Nav Controller Controller. Don't do that. I should mention something I didn't before. Please look on the screen. And it's not that it's important or not important, but if you look here, notice the author under models has two different names, Paging Info and Products List View Model. A lot of people believe that since your controllers always end with the word controller, your models should always end with the word model, and your views should always end with the word view. All right? Not view so much, but you see a lot of books will do this. Every model will have the word model in it. Why am I telling you that? Because when you take your test, you've got your choice. If it was hello, you can either call your class hello.cs or hello model. All right. But again, like anything else, I wish the author had been consistent here. All right. And he's not. So we've got this nav controller. All right. There it is. They start talking about it in the book on page 205. And the author says, let's remove the code that's in there and replace it with this. All right. Now, this is, for lack of better words, this is kind of stupid. Because all it's going to do is it's just going to put hello from nav controller in that corner. All right. But he's doing this the way he does a lot of things, which is very deliberately, which doesn't mean it's a bad thing at all. All right. So it says, the method returns a static message, but it can get us started. So we're going to go back to our layout file, and we're going to change it to this. Inside of the div above render body, we're going to put in this. Inside of the div in our layout CS HTML above the render body div. So I'm going to go into the layout file. We've got two divs. This one where it says put something useful here later, it's now time to put in something useful. right there. All right, I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run the program. While it's getting ready, oops, wrong thing to bring up. Come on. While it's getting ready, says we removed the placeholder text and replaced it with this. That's what should show here. See this? Hello from Nav Controller. All right. Let's see if indeed that's what happened. There it is. Hello from Nav Controller. Now you might look and go, well, how come in the book it's on 2 lines? Remember that this is responsive. So now it's on 2 lines. Suppose if I make it small enough, yeah, now it's on 3 lines. All right? That's not what's important from the whole thing, no. All right? All right. Now it starts getting more important. I'm on the bottom half of page 206. Yeah, okay. It was about time for that, right? Thank you. All right. So again, I'm on the bottom half of page 206. And the author says, we can now return to the nav controller and actually generate the series of categories. It says, I don't want to generate the category URLs. Rather, I want to use a helper method to do that. All right. All I'm going to do in the menu action method is to create the list of categories. And that's exactly, what the author is doing in here. All right. So in the nav controller, I'm going to just grab everything he's got in here, replace that current nav controller with this one. That's part of it because it goes on to the next page, on to page 207. All right. Now, let's take a look at what the author has put in here and then his explanation on the bottom, which is much better than mine. All right. The author says the first change is to add a constructor that accepts an iProduct repository, all right, as its argument. This has the effect of declaring a dependency that Ninject will take care of for us. The second change is to that menu option or menu method right there. And it ends right there. It now uses a link query to obtain a list of categories. It passes them to the view, all right, and the view basically is now going to be able to work with these. On page 207 is another unit test. So I'm jumping up to page 208, creating the view. To create the view for the menu action, you know how to do this already. Now, the author says this, all right, right mouse click on the Views Nav folder. This isn't the way we've been doing it, but let's do it that way. All right, please look on the screen here. Under Views Nav, we can do this. Right mouse click, add, view. That's another way of doing it. If you didn't want to do it that way, we should be able to right mouse click on here and choose Add View. Okay? But I want to use the author's way of doing things, so right click on the View Nav folder and choose Add. Oh, that's right. It's an MVC5 view with Razor. That's right. That's why it looked funky. All right. Right mouse click, Add, not View. All right. New item. Right mouse click, choose Add New Item. Okay. Then is it under Web? I don't remember which one. I think. Let's see. Did he say it was under Web?
Yeah.
Okay. Add MVC5 view page with Razor from the pop-up menu. MVC5 view Razor, and he wants the name to be menu. All right. So again, I'm following the author's lead right here. And then the contents, I haven't created it yet, but once I do, I'm going to put in this. All right. So what do we have? An app model, meaning it's a strongly typed view. An action link, which is going to have what? Home, list, and product on it. All right. A button. And then it's going to go through here, ideally at least. And it's going to go through here and it's going to find the list of categories for us. So hopefully, look on the screen here. That's what's going to happen after we add this. See that? All right. So I'm grabbing what's in here, removing it, and adding this. All right. I do a little bit of cleanup work on my own here. Okay. So I'm going to do a file, save all, and try to run this. All right, see what we have? Home, chess, soccer, and water sports. All right, looks like right now, there's the water sports, there's the soccer, there's the chess. Oh, home works. That's great, because mine didn't work on the one I did, so I must have left a step out. But that's good. That should actually have everything on there, all 9 of them. All right? Now, hopefully you agree with what I'm about to say. 2 things. First thing, it's looking more professional right now than it did earlier. I think at least it's looking more professional. Second thing, and this is what we're doing next. Right now, if you didn't know what kayaks were, or you didn't know what a life jacket was, would you agree you wouldn't know what category you were in? So what we want to do is we want to add some highlighting so that the user can tell exactly what category is the active category. That's what we do next, starting on the bottom here of page 209. So I'm going to stop the run, jump back into the PDF here. So as it says, at present, we do not indicate to the user what category they are in. Most people would probably be able to figure it out. But answer me this. Wouldn't it be possible, let's say, for example, you added a new category in there. I mean, this just popped into my head right now. So let's say we had a new category in there that's called shoes. Okay? And, you put in running shoes and everything else. That's all cool. But now, what if you have a water shoe? Does the water shoe belong in the shoe category, or does the water shoe belong in the water sports category? All right? We want to make sure you can always tell. All right? So the author decides now to go back and use ViewBag. So what we want to do is we want to open up our nav controller. All right? So under our web UI controllers, we want to open up our nav controller, which is right here. Got a few things that are open. I'm going to try to close a few of these. All right. And what it says in here, okay, is down toward the bottom, right after our nav controller. So right after here, our constructor, okay, we want to add this, a partial view result. So this right here. I'm just going to grab every bit of this, copy it to the clipboard, okay, come down towards the bottom, or maybe not. So it looks like we want to change the menu, which is right here. All right, we want to change it to this. Now again, when you see this, this is what I want you to understand. Look at this. This is one line of code. This is one line of code. You know it's on 4, it doesn't matter. All right, the other thing, and you may or may not remember this, back from year 1, semester 1, this is called chaining. When you say dot something, dot something, dot something, we looked at and used some chaining in the context of jQuery. But now we're doing it here. All right? So the way this works is it says for our products, we want to be able to select each distinct category and then put it in order by that category. All right? If you don't like my verbiage, there's the authors. All right? Then on 210, there is yet another, the rest of 210, another unit test. All right? Which jumps us up to page 211. All right? Now that I'm providing information about which category is selected, I can update the view to take advantage of this and add a CSS class to the anchor element. Okay? So in other words, we want to go into our menu.cshtml that's in there right now, and we want to add this. All right? So again, this is in our menu.cshtml file. All right, down near the bottom where we've got this class statement down here. All right, we want to add that to it. So after the button large right there, we want to add that. And what that is doing is it's going to take whatever button is the default, meaning whatever category we're in, and since it's set to default, it's going to look a little different. How's that? All right. What do I mean? Well, let's run it. See that? Can you see? I just clicked on chess. There's soccer. There's water sports. There's home. Now, home doesn't have it on there because home has got every record there is. All right? And again, that's a decision that the author made, was to do it like this. So it says there, the change is simple. If the current link matches the selected category, all right, we create and add another Bootstrap class to it. Okay? All right. Next, correcting the page count. You might say, what do you mean correcting the page count? It says, I need to correct the page link so they work correctly when a category is selected. Currently, the number of pages is determined by the total number of products in the repository, period. Notice how it always says 1, 2, 3? Because there's 9 total products. And 4 per page, 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and 9. All right? So the author says we can fix this by updating the list action and putting in this change. All right? So I'm going to see how close that is. I want to go into the productcontroller.cs file. All right, where we have this big ugly thing in here. All right. After the word page size there, we've got total items. Whoops, right. Okay, we've got the total items line that's in there right now, but there's only one line. We are replacing this line, which for me is line 34. We are replacing that with this. All right, I'm going to move that over so it looks a little bit nicer. All right. How does that change? Again, as always, the easiest way is to run it to show you how it's changed. And what I'm about to show you is shown on page 213. So, would you all agree? There's only two things in water sports. So notice now, there's our water sports, and it only shows one page. All right? Now, unfortunately, soccer and chess, we'd have to add a few more items. Does that make sense to everybody? You want to go in and add a few more items to check this stuff? Go ahead and do it. I don't care. All right? All right. So jumping down to the bottom of page 213, another unit test down on the bottom of page 213, and it takes up most of page 214. All right. Here's where it all starts to happen now. You look on the screen, in the last, 10 pages of the chapter, we build the shopping cart. All right? So by the end of this, you should be able to, when you click that you want to buy an item, you should be able to put it in your shopping cart. Now, I want to take this slow for two reasons. One reason is they use something in here we have not talked about. They use what are called sessions. Okay? And the idea is, a session is what you do while you're up and running in the browser. Did you hear me? That's usually what a session is by default. So, in other words, not everywhere, but in most applications, again, you don't have to look at me, but please listen to this. In most applications that use sessions, they are set up so if you throw something in a shopping cart, for example, and then you're like, I don't know, I'm just going to leave it there. It'll stay in there, but once you log out, 20 minutes later, it typically clears everything you've done. Did you all hear that? All right, that's usually how it works. Can you set it? Yeah. You may or may not remember, but when we talked JavaScript, at the end of the JavaScript class, we talked a little bit about cookies. All right, you can set a cookie that you can put something, or a company can put something in, that if you put something in a shopping cart, it stays there forever. I may have mentioned this to you last year when we talked about this, but I'll always remember this. I found it funny because I've got a strange sense of humor. All right? I karaoke. And I went out to a karaoke site and I put a CD into my shopping cart, but I didn't buy it. Then I stopped using that particular company because I found one that sold stuff cheaper. But they didn't have a CD I wanted, so I went back to that company a year later, and that was still in my shopping cart. I had to go back and look and see what was on there. What the heck is this CD? That's how long it had been. It was almost a year. All right? So some of them will keep your stuff in a shopping cart forever. All right? So the application is progressing nicely, but I cannot sell products until I implement them into a shopping cart. In this section, we'll create the shopping cart experience. So look at what we're adding. We're going to add an add to cart for everything we have. See this? This ain't in there right now. Right now we've got the cost, but we want to add to cart. Once we add it to the cart, we want it to be shown that it's been added to the cart. And we want to let you either check out or continue shopping. In other words, it's reminiscent of a, quote, real shopping cart, unquote. All right? And eventually, when you go to checkout now, ours will be different. All right? We do not have it set up here at this institution that you're able to go and send emails and do a lot of other stuff. All right? So, turning up to page 215, it says an add to cart button will be displayed alongside each of the products. Clicking the button will show a summary of the products the customer has selected so far and the total cost. Again, without text. At this point, the user can click the Continue Shopping button to return to the product catalog or click the Checkout Now button to complete the order and finish their shopping session. A shopping cart is part of a business domain, so it makes sense to put it in our domain model. So we want to add something to our sportstore.domain. Okay, look on the screen. I'm going to right now close my web UI, at least momentarily, and open up my domain. All right. And it says in our entities folder in here, we want to define a cart.cs class. There's our entities folder. Right mouse click, add class. What class? Cart.cs. This is, again, for lack of better words, symbolizing a shopping cart. All right? There's almost no code in there, and in fact, the code is shown in our text on most of page 215. I'm going to shrink this down. But look at what we could do. We've got a shopping cart that's going to be a list of cart items. All right. We want to be able to add items to the shopping cart. We want to be able to remove items from a shopping cart. And anytime we add something, we want to update our total. All right. Plus, we want the ability to clear everything out of our shopping cart. So I'm just going to grab all of this. Copy it to the clipboard and replace what's in here in our class cart with this. All right. Now I'm looking and it's got some errors here on cart line. What's that from? I don't know. Either it's something we haven't done yet, which it very well could be. All right. Hopefully it's something that'll get fixed, so to speak, in a couple minutes. All right. But it's kind of neat. Please look up on the screen here. In the past, when we've had errors like this, and I click this, it's almost always been we didn't have a using statement. Again, please look at this because you're going to get hit with this sooner or later. If what it says right there is like generate a new cart, you almost never want to choose that. The usings are fine. You're just adding a reference. But this means probably we're going to add something later ourselves. All right? So I would not choose anything right here. You're like, well, they're errors. Yeah, and I hope they're going to get fixed. Now, where? I don't know. But if I go down to the bottom here, take a look. There's stuff on the next page. That might be what it is. See that? It's giving me errors and it doesn't understand cart line. Well, lo and behold, what's on the next page? Cart line. All right, now my errors are gone. That's always good news. All right. So the author mentions here then on 216, the cart class uses the cart line item, or I'm sorry, the cart line class to represent a product. Just so you know, it's not a big thing. Rather than cart line, many things will call that cart item. A lot of times you'll see that too. All right. Then there's a unit test. Again, this would be a good one to actually test that it's working. That's on 216, 217, 218 to the top of 219. So it's a long test. All right. So I'm going to jump all the way up then to page 219, adding the add to cart buttons. All right. So we need to edit our product summary. All right. And it says we want to change it to add this. So that's right between the H3 tags in there and the span. Okay. That product summary file is under view shared, which means it's back in our other project. It's not in this project. It's in our web UI. All right. There's our product summary under shared. All right. And right after the H3, but before the span, we want to add that. What that is going to do is right now it's showing the product name, a description, and then the price. Now we're adding the add to cart button. Now, I don't think it's probably ready yet, but let's just look just in case. So I'm going to run this and then pick it up again on page 220 in just a second. All right, see that? Now we've got an add to cart. It's not going to be functional yet, all right, because we didn't write the add to cart method, but we can take a look at it now. And what's even kind of cool is it's at least semi-responsive. Not great, maybe. I don't know how that's going to look on a phone. This is not going to look good at all, so we're going to have to change that later. But technically, when you look at this, this is about cell phone size. You could read it. All right? All right. And the author does give you a little thing here. It's on the bottom of page 219, if you look up on the screen. He says here, by default, the begin form helper creates a form that uses post. You can change this by using get, but think carefully about doing so. All right? Get requests must be idempotent, which means they must not cause changes. In other words, get is supposed to be like a select statement in a database. All right? So the author says it's one of those, although you can make the change, doesn't mean you should. Also, something different in here. Again, don't have to look. Please listen. This is the top of page 220. You may or may not even be aware of this. On an HTML page with straight HTML, you can only have one form per page. When you put HTML inside of a .cs HTML file, you can have multiple forms on the same page. All right? And that's what the author says in here. Says equally, there's no requirement to create a form for each button. There's a lot of different ways this could have been done. Again, this is the way the author decided to do it. All right? It works, and I think it works pretty well. So I'm not going to at all be critical of what he did. So I need a controller. So we need to add a cart controller in our web UI. So let's go in and do that. All right. There's our web UI. There's our controllers. Right mouse click, add controller. It will be an empty one. Double check to make sure I've got the name correct. The name is cart controller. Pretty simple. So change it from default controller to cart controller. Click add. Then we're going to add the code that's in here on the rest of page 220 and that goes on to the top of page 221. So here's the stuff on 220. Let's add it, then come back and take a look at it. Again, I'm going to get errors now because it's not complete. All right. And then let's go up to the top of the next page. Grab all this stuff. Whoops. All right. I have no errors. Always a good sign. All right. Do this, grab that, I'll grab this. All right. So the author says there's a few key points to make here regarding this controller. The first, again, as I already mentioned, that's why I preceded it with this, is they use a session object. Let me just tell you that in web forms, you use sessions virtually everywhere. Everything you do with sessions. Many people found this very hard to work with. So in MVC, you still can, you still do at times, but it's not that you necessarily have to. All right. It says this is the purpose of the get cart method. ASP.NET has a session feature that uses cookies or URL rewriting to associate multiple requests from a user to form a single browsing session. Isn't that what I want? I want to be able to go from page to page. All right. So the author explains this, then says on the bottom of 221 in their tip, session objects are stored in memory by default, but you can configure a range of different storage options. Why is that important? Look at what one of them is. You can tell it to store it in a database. For the add to cart and remove from cart methods, the author used parameter names that match the input elements in the HTML form. This allows the MVC framework to associate the incoming post variables with the parameters. All right. You're being smart, for lack of better words. All right, we've got 2 or 3 more pages to go, and then we're done with the chapter. So turning up to the top of 222. Now displaying the contents of the cart. Okay? It says the final point to note here is that both add to cart and remove from cart call a redirect. A redirect to action allows you to go to a different page. All right, so when you complete something, you can go to a different page. It says this has the effect of sending an HTTP redirect instruction, asking the browser to request a new URL. In this case, the author has asked the browser to request a URL that will call the index action method of the cart controller. All right? And it says, I'm going to implement the index method and use it to display the contents of the cart. All right? We need 2 pieces of information to do this, or pass 2 pieces of information to the view. All right? The cart object and the URL. So we've created a new class in the models folder called cartIndexViewModel.cs. So let's go into our web UI, go into the models folder, right mouse click on it, choose add, choose class, and we're going to call that class cartIndexViewModel.cs. We're going to change the code that we get to the code that's right here. Okay. Says now that I have a view model, I can implement the index action in the cart controller class as shown in the listing. So in other words, we want to do 2 things. First, we want to go into our cart controller.cs and add this at the top using sportstore.webui.models. All right, so let's go into the cart controller and do that. It's up at the top. New using statement, there it is. All right, again, it goes gray because we're not using it. All right. Then, right after the constructor, I should say, we're going to add this index method right here. We didn't have an index method before. All right, so let's add that. And all of it is right there. So, after we come in and right after here, right there. Okay. It says the last step then that we have, and I'm on page 223. So the last step that we have to display the contents is to create the new view. right-click on your index method, select Add View. All right, and we're going to add all of the code that's shown on 223, all right, on the rest of the page here. So again, I'm going to make this smaller so I can grab all of it at one time. Right mouse click on index, choose Add View. We want it to be index. Did they say how this is supposed to be set up? Sorry. Says just select Add View from the pop-up and select Index and OK. Paste this in. All right. And for lack of better words, it's almost time for the big reveal. All right. So the author says here, the view enumerates the lines in the cart. So in other words, it's going to grab all of the items that are in our shopping cart, and it's going to figure out the costs. All right. So that when we over here and when we get done, not the add to cart, but when we say we're done, we want this. So our summary should now show us what's in our shopping cart. Find out right now. Let's do a file, save all, because it's been a while, and run the program. And if it does come up without any errors, good. Let's buy one thing from each category. So let's go over to water sports, which gives us only these, and we'll buy a life jacket. And see that it's in there now. We'll continue shopping. We'll go over to soccer, and let's buy a stadium. We'll just go nuts. There that is. All right, we'll continue shopping. We'll go over to chess, and we'll buy the Bling Bling King. And we've got all that. All right. And I believe that's where we were supposed to be right now. I think that's everything. So the little summary that the author puts here on the bottom of page 225 says, in this chapter we started to flesh out the customer-facing parts of the Sports Store app. All right, there is still more work to do as we'll continue its development in the next chapter. So what you see here, if you look, what we'll start on next week will be completing the cart. All right. After we complete the cart, which is chapter 9, I'm just going to jump back here to the beginning. Whoops. I guess I didn't want to. Yeah. So after we complete the cart, then we'll try to make it responsive so it looks good in mobile. That's what we'll do next week. Then in the following week, we'll add the administration, a little bit of security stuff, and as they say, finishing touches. My hope is by that time we can deploy this to Azure and or to App Harbor. Questions? Is everybody keeping up? Is it making at least some sense? I mean, there's stuff he does in here. That's why I decided to do another project. It's like, this is just way too much to expect people to handle. And I'm not sure if that's why when Mr. Smith told me he was going to go over this in 2 weeks, that's what I was wondering. Is he going to really explain it? All right. I don't see how you can do this in 2 weeks. I don't. All right. I mean, he's got more expertise than I do, but unless he's talking really fast, I don't know. So we will pick it up there. Okay. I'm going to try to write the key right now for this test, this pre-test for you. If I get the key done, then I will give you the pre-test at the end of the period. Otherwise, I'm either going to email it to you tonight or I'm going to email it to you tomorrow morning. I don't know if I'll have time to work on it tonight or not. I have babysitting duty. So we'll see. All right.